Good morning, afternoon or evening everybody. Welcome to part 1 of this 1/35th scale Meng Normandy Jagdpanther build. This video is going to focus on the main construction of the kit parts and hopefully show you what the kit looks like right out the box, apart from the tracks, but more on that later. Without further ado, let's build this thing. As with a lot of armor projects, we start with the wheel construction. Using a pair of snips, I carefully cut each wheel from the sprue and clean up with a scalpel and sandpaper. Being a German big cat, there's a fair few wheels to get through, so this does take some time. All the wheels use these little rubber grommets, which allow the wheels to turn when fitted. This is a nice touch. The inner wheels are pressed together. The fit is so snug I didn't use any glue at this stage. I build the rest of the inner wheels, then repeat the process with the outer and inner wheel construction. I did, however, use some extra thin cement this time to hold the two halves of the wheel together. Tamiya extra thin cement is my go-to for all plastic components. With the wheels done, it's a similar story with the sprockets. Cut out, clean up, then construct. They come in 3 pieces with the grommet tucked inside. Then it's the guide wheels. Again, similar story, but in more components. Everything's going together how you would expect at this stage. Finally, all the wheels and sprockets are done and put aside. It's always a bit of a slog with these big cats. Now we can get on to the fun stuff, starting with the construction of the lower hull. I don't know if I'm just used to the traditional bathtub-style hull, but I did think this was slightly over-engineered, a fair amount of components for not a lot of result. Nevertheless, it went together pretty well. Next up, a good chunk of detail for the lower hull section, starting with the rear plate. Unfortunately, this piece does not fit, as you can see, with the giant gap at the bottom. I feared if I rectified this, it would mess up the fitment of the top deck, so I glued in place and will fill later. There's a bunch of detail to add to the lower hull. All is glued in place with the extra thin cement without a hitch. Next, there's a bunch of smaller details that need attaching to the lower hull. These are all fitted using the extra thin cement. Now the suspension arms are cut, sanded and fitted, again using the extra thin cement to hold them in place. The towing eyes are fitted to the rear, no glue required as these just clip on. Now it's time to fit the structure of the tank and the rear deck. There's a small amount of drilling to be done here and the removal of these massive injector marks. The deck is attached to the large structural piece and then the fans are fitted to the underside. It's crucial these are attached now, as these won't be able to be accessed once fitted to the lower hull. The structure and deck is now fitted to the lower hull. I'm glad I didn't alter the rear plate as this fitted perfectly as it is. Next, these strips with the track guards can be added. I took this opportunity prior to fitting to add some damage to the guards. I did this by carefully heating the plastic with a lighter and bending them. I repeated this process until I was happy with the amount of damage, being careful to ensure it looks natural. Finally, I give them a light sand to get rid of any fingerprints. With battle damage added to both sides, I fit them to the hull. The last part of this stage is to fit this hitch construction to the rear plate. Next, I built the jack and set aside for painting later. Now, the tracks. You get a massive slab of individual links with this kit to be glued together. The flash isn't brilliant, and you need to attach 2 guide horns to every single link. I cut out and built one link, Then thought, fudge this for a game of fried peas. There is no way I'm doing this 174 times. Therefore decided I would print my own workable ones. We'll go back to that later. Here's where the tank really starts taking shape. We can now prepare the side, front and rear armor panels. I'm doing my own weld beads on this tank, so prior to fitting, I cut out the existing molded welds. I did this with a scalpel and smoothed over with some quick dry cement. I then added some cut marks onto the edges of the armor plates, again with a scalpel, and blended with some cement. The process is repeated on all 4 armor plates, fairly time-consuming, but will make life easier down the line. The front plate is added first, and again, the fitment is absolute dog shit. Honestly, don't know if it's something I did wrong on an earlier stage or what, but this will require some cleanup and filling later. The side plates again would not fit for ship. I had to carve down these little notches inside the plates to get them to fit. Again, not sure if I got something out of square in the build process, or this kit just doesn't fit together. If you have built this kit, please do let me know in the comments if you had issues, or it went together smoothly. If you are liking these videos, please can I ask you, drop me a like and subscribe to the channel. That would be boss. Thank you. With all the sides forced together, it's now time to fit the machine gun mount and the periscope. These are fitted from the inside of the front plate. I decided here that I would fill the gap left by the poor fit of the front plate with some white putty. Nothing too crazy here, as I will be adding Zimmerit to the tank that will cover any rough work. Some more details are added to the front section, the sides of the track guards and the front light. Also, the first piece of Photo-etch is added. I use VMS black CA glue for any Photo-etch elements. The exhausts are then test fitted, removed, and put aside for fitment once the Zimmerit has been applied. These little rear guards are glued in place. Then I give the rear storage box the old lighter damage technique to add some dents. These often looked pretty beaten up in reference photos. Once sufficiently burnt and beaten up, they are fitted to the rear of the tank. In preparation of fitting the Photo-etch grills, I paint the inside of the fans and vents. For this, I'm using a German grey mixed 50-50 with acrylic thinner. This will give a shadow under the vents and avoid any unpaintable areas. Next, these tiny little brackets for the side armor plates are attached. These turned out to be a right pain in the arse later down the line, as they kept bending and snapping off when the tank was on its side. Not ideal. Back to the rear deck now with the attachments of the fan guards. With those fitted, it's time for the Photo-etch. In terms of Photo-etch, these grills are very easy to apply and really add some nice detail to the model. Again, using the CA glue, I apply around the grill areas and gently press into place. Once all 6 are fitted, I start adding a bit of damage to the grills. I use the scalpel handle to add dents and the blade to add small holes. Looks rough now, but will look a whole lot better once painted. I keep going with the Photo-etch and add the side plates. Again, these look pretty rough at the moment, but it's that inconsistency which will enhance the used look of the Jagdpanther once finished. Back on the rear section, I build the engine hatch and attach to the rear deck. Next, the spare track holders are added to each side. There are some more details to add, these covers and 4 of these tiny hooks. Now to finish the rear details, starting with the empty shell hatch and the main hatch. Both of these you can leave open if you want, but I'm closing mine up. The last detail is the antenna and rear storage box. Any tools I'm putting aside for now until I have added the Zimmerit coating. Next up, the details for the roof of the tank. There's vents, periscopes and periscope guards, mainly the parts that need to be fixed from the inside. Whizzing through some of these details now, they're all pretty straightforward and attach without a hitch. The top is fitted to the tank and it fits beautifully. It's nice to know at least the main body is square. Rest of the top details now, starting with the gunner's periscope and hatches that can be left open or closed up like mine. The final top vent is attached and the front machine gun is glued in place. Now for the main event, the massive 88mm gun of the mighty Jagdpanther. The detail on this is actually quite nice. Although I have got all my hatches shut, I am building it for the thrills. Unfortunately, I forgot to film the making of the barrel, but it's a single-piece barrel with a two-piece muzzle brake. You will see this attached later. The hinge detail is very nice, allowing the gun to traverse both side to side and up and down once fitted. Once all the internal details are added and the mantlet attached, it can be finally glued in place on the tank. The workable track links next. As mentioned earlier, I decided against gluing 485,000 guide horns on and printed myself some workable links. This file I got from Cults 3D, and whilst they take a little while to build, there's zero cleanup, and I have some wonderfully detailed workable tracks at the end. The wheels and sprockets are now fitted to the tank. Because they have the grommet attachment, it was this force of pushing them on that bent all the armor plate brackets on the other side. Once in place, the links can be added. They roll on, then it's just a case of adding the last pin. A couple of final details are added to the rear. The barrel cleaners, jacking block, and the spare track links are attached. The final part of the build phase is adding these really nice steel armor plates. Being made of metal is a really nice touch and will make adding battle damage really easy down the line. And that's it. That concludes the main build phase of the tank. There are some more things to add like the tow cables and tools, but this is pretty much the kit right out the box, plus some tracks. Next time, I will be focusing on the weld beads and square Zimmerit application. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this build phase video, and I'll see you next time. Happy modeling, everybody.